Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Chris Rosini, our co-host. Chris, welcome to the program.
It is great to be with you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. There's lots to talk about. There's still a lot of foreign policy problems out there. We're still spending money. No money's been cut from the budget, so the deep state and the neocons who like government spending money on militarism, they seem to be probably happy what's going on. But there still is a lot of chaos, less chaos than some people expected because we have a big debt. The debt is not telling us exactly how big the daily problems are. The daily problems seem to be handled, and they can be manipulated temporarily with new debt. When a bubble tends to leak, you can just pump it up again, and it seems to help a little bit. And you can find other victims and guilty parties that contribute to the chaos. But we are living in a time where it's very difficult to know how to save your money and save your freedoms. And that is something that we deal with all the time because we believe that the freedom movement and the freedom ideas is a source of obtaining our freedom and prosperity. But I see things now as a consequence of there's a natural tendency for markets to be fickle. Say one thing, do another, especially under the circumstances of the interventionist policy we have. You can have two extremes: one, total chaos, no government at all, anarchy, and bad people running around, and it's a real mess. Not many people say, that's what I like. And then you also have the people who are the super authoritarians, which are the radical plus, super plus communists who measures every breath of everybody that takes. So there's two extremes are there. Right now, I don't think anybody's out there saying that's exactly what we need to solve our problems. But we do have people arguing the case, and those are the cultural Marxists that would like to cause chaos. And I would say they're probably pretty happy. There is a lot of chaos. I think that it's mellowing a little bit with the new administration, but what they have done with social media and all the conflicts in the media and the relativity that they have placed on free speech, that is still a big problem. And it's something that has to be dealt with because people want to, use that. And Marxists believe the more chaos, the more chances they have of ushering in total socialism in their in their way of understanding what total socialism means. And it's a subject that we have to deal with, and individuals have to deal with it in an investment way because, well, what do you do on investments like this? This is one thing that we do here at the Liberty Report is we do partner with Birch Gold Company because that's one of their specialties. They try to help people, protect against the chaos that we have, trying to get them to understand how important it is to defend freedom and liberty and how to defend, their economic policies, but how to invest. And that is a job and a half. And they do have ideas about gold and precious metals. And if you'd like to get more information from Birch Gold, it's not too difficult because there's a number that you can text and they will send you some material and they don't charge you for it. If you text Ron at 989898, they will give you more information because, believe me, it is not easy to invest in these times. Even the professionals lose a lot of money. So I think we need as much help as possible. I look at everything I can to fully understand what's going on. But right now, people are concerned about the dollar. The dollar is under threat. And people wonder, well, it's all China's fault. I keep thinking, well, China is serving the interests of the United States. And let me explain. We inflate our currency. We have the reserve currency of the world. We get away with inflating the currency at lib, and we can do what we want. And why does it work so well? We have price inflation here and people are worried about it, but it's not as bad as it could be. And it's sort of held in check right now because have been blessed with the ridiculous notion that we'll just export your inflation. Send the bills, the currency overseas, and let them have the inflation. And that's more or less what we did with China. And who's guilty of that? Our government sells them treasury bills all the time, so we get to get them tied into the dollar, so they have to help defend the dollar. But also, we buy stuff. Our people in this country buy a lot of stuff from China. What do they end up with? Dollars. And what do they do with the dollars? They inflate their currency. So they have served. They have served us by us able to export our monetary inflation. But that's coming to an end, and that's why there's so much chaos, because China has a weak market right now, and they're wondering what to do. They wonder, our government wonders about it, DOGE wonders about it, the conservative constitutionalists worry about it, the libertarians worry about it. There's a lot of worry out there, but really I still see the problems that on a day-to-day basis aren't quite like they're going to get if we don't straighten out, and that is the issue of debt. So we have to do something about the debt, and we had DOGE that was to help us a lot, and they have helped to a degree. But there's also right now there's a great conflict going on in Washington with the legislators who are saying, well, we take our orders from the people. And there are a lot of people out there that want subsidies. Not only the neocons, the pharmaceutical industries, everybody has a lobbyist there, plus the individuals. So you can't cut anything. So that's why we have the chaos. And the fact that we can export our inflation, send our money to China, get some more stuff, and if the bubble keeps it keeps growing worldwide. And that narrows it down. There's only one big problem. Our country spends too much. They've undermined the dollar. We print too much money. We run up too much debt. Sounds complicated, but it isn't. It just means we're living way beyond our means, and the market is saying too much, too often, you better cut back for our own good. Are they going to do it? Right. From the news that we hear in the last few weeks and few months with the effort by Elon, it doesn't look like it's going to be an easy chore. So I think what we'll do now is turn to Chris to find out whether he has any suggestions of what we might do to clean up this mess.
Yeah, I don't have suggestions, but I do miss, I'm sure as a lot of people, the first few weeks of the Trump administration. They were the most very exciting. Change was in the air. We had Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. He had the vast majority of the population behind him with DOGE, but we see that the uniparty in our democracy is even stronger than the richest man in the world. You can have all the votes and all the public opinion, but if you try to roll back the state, both sides will conspire against you, and that is what has happened. And it's sad to report because I miss those days, but we are back pretty much to the status quo. Is Trump better than Harris? Yes, of course. That's not even debatable. And he is very entertaining the way he speaks. But, there is no lack of entertainment here in America. That's not one of our problems. The problem that we have is the overwhelming size and scope of government, and that is not changing. Government is expanding, debts, deficits, spending. It is not contracting. So we have to admit that as of today, the swamp has won. And it's a shame, because the enthusiasm is gone. And if anything in my lifetime, and probably maybe for the rest of my lifetime, DOGE really encapsulated, it captured the American spirit more than anything that I've ever lived through. And, we have to report it as it comes along. As of today, it's being silenced, and the state has won. So it's tough to talk about that. I wish it was like the early days. Maybe things will change in the future. But as of today, it does not look good.
Well, there's a lot of things that could be done. The efforts was made. It hasn't occurred because of the power of the special interests. But we also have a sinister infiltration over the last 100 years of the philosophy of interventionism. people aren't total anarchists, nor are they total authoritarians, but they have been accepting the idea that intervention is good. All you have to have are good people that endorses democracy, and they vote up what they want to do, and everything will work smoothly. Well, that doesn't work that way at all. Matter of fact, all it does is it invite people to make their own special interest group. So this is a thing that Soros and his gang knew all along, and they've infiltrated the educational system, the medical system, the whole works. And right now, especially in the prior administration, his influence was overwhelming. But it's still there. There's a lot of appointees that resulted from the educational system being undermined, and all the influence in the political system of placing people in vital places, which are sort of unnoticed for a while. They're not the top positions, but they're there to muddy the waters, the lower level judges and the bureaucrats. So that would have to be undermined. But I think the market is, although I describe it as fickle, the market is right. The market eventually wipes out the bad stuff. We can run up the debt, but the debt itself self-destructs, and it does it usually by monetary destruction, because there's always the resort to going in and bailing them out with more printing of money. Is especially tempting when you have the world reserve currency in the world, and we do, and we continue the spending. And I think this chaos that we're talking about, and the failure to see a fruition of Elon Musk's desires to really cut back, and there's been attempts, there's been numbers thrown out there, but everybody knows they're talking about, if you're looking at the not too distant future, the deficit, the debt could go up $5 trillion. So we're not on our way, other than the fact that it's being discussed better than ever before, and we have to eventually get the people to accept it. Well, they're not going to accept it very easy, all the way down to the person that gets food stamps, to the people who get food stamps in the military-industrial complex, because they don't want it to happen. But the market will dictate that, because you can't tax the people. That would cause too much chaos if you tried to tax the people for the spending. So they almost inevitably resort to the mischief and the illegality and the immoral principle of counterfeiting our money. And that, to me, is the number one problem as the result of the type of system that we have to say. Chris?
That's very good, Dr. Paul. And as you pointed out, the market will not be beat, because it's right. And there's someone in the House of Representatives, actually he's very similar to how you were, Dr. Paul, who is repeatedly right. And it's probably pretty easy for him in principle, but it's hard because all the slings and arrows that come at him, and that's Thomas Massie. Several months ago, he was pointing out government has to cut now. And there was all these promises, no, you have to get on board with Trump's agenda, and the government is going to cut later. And he said, because he knows how government works, they'll promise cuts later, and when later arrives, today, they're not going to cut. So he was right again, and he was pilloried for it. He was primary Thomas Massie for not getting on board with Trump's agenda. So this just shows that mob mentality is on the left and on the right. It's exactly the same. They're mirror images of one another. One side will pressure you to do the mask. The other side will pressure you to vote for more government spending and call it Trump's agenda. Well, Thomas Massie, hats off to you again for being right. They are not cutting. You were correct to stand your ground. And all of this stuff adds up. His persona, his reputation, his character is probably larger than ever today, Thomas Massie. Even when President Trump badmouths him, the people come out in droves in support of Massie. So doing the right thing counts, it matters. So hats off again to you, Congressman.
Very good. And Thomas Massie does set a wonderful example. There were times when I would take votes like that, and people would come, and that the authors of a bill, if I was the only one voting against it, the authors of the bill would come and beg me to change my vote to a yes vote. And I often wondered about that. Why do they want to do that? And I would sort of kid because I had an idea what was going on. They don't like anybody waving a flag that maybe there's something wrong with it. And if you believe in something, your voice and the value of your vote is much greater. So I would say, well, why do you need this? And they really don't have an answer for it. But I think they want it because they don't want a challenge on a philosophical ground, whether it's constitutional or moral. They wish we would all go away. But that's why people who are in the minority, whether there's 1 or 10 or 50, they shouldn't grovel and say, oh, we can't do this, can't do that. But it is a sounding board. And, it's a bully pulpit for the well-to-do and the powerful. But it's also a pulpit for people who want to spread the message of liberty, because if you do it consistently, you can gain respect and people will come and ask, why do you do these kind of things? It's not going to do any good. But I tell them, I said, well, the way I look at it, if I'm the only one that votes it and they're worried about it, I said, it's something else. Does that make my vote equivalent to all their votes? Because they're begging and pleading me to switch. So it's not a reality vote that, I'm going to change the vote. That doesn't happen. But it might change people's attitude. And I think ultimately, Chris, that's what we have to do, is change people's attitudes. And last 150 years, whether it's education or politics or monetary policy, it's all been undermined. And that's why I'm still keeping my fingers crossed of what's happening now, especially since the beginning of the Trump administration. But I'm also quite concerned about it, that the gang out there that is well organized and we know about, they're not going to go away. And they're band together. The probably neocons band together with the ultra liberals, and they don't band together to come together and have a coalition against war or against debt. They get together and say, you vote for my package and I'll vote for your package. And that's the way it goes. That's the way it's been for a long time. That is why people should question this devotion to the principle of pure democracy. Majorities are always right. Well, they aren't always right. Most of the time they're wrong. The founders detested democracy in the sense the majority always knows. No, they're the noisiest and the most aggressive. And and then if they want to get together and promote their nihilism, that you can tell lies, they get away with it. So I think, though, that there is a shift. I think we're better off. I think the philosophy of liberty is much more noticed because things are getting worse and people are waking up than they were in the 70s when I first went to Congress, because people were dumbfounded because they couldn't understand why I was voting certain ways. And yet I think there are a lot more now of people thinking this way, and just the fact that they're talking about USAID and pointing out to the American people how horrible it is. No, it didn't solve it. All those programs aren't going to disappear, and the debt is still going to go up. And eventually the market will speak. The people who finally decide they want the truth, and it'll also show that the dollar can't last forever, and the bubble will liquidate the bad debt and the malinvestment and the bad ideas. Unfortunately, if it gets to that point, it's a lot of suffering. A lot of people will suffer. Even the innocent people will suffer. But that's the way it's worked throughout history. We're not the first ones that ever faced this, but we've gotten away with a big, big bubble because of the nature of the global economy and global trading going on. We can manipulate tariffs and taxes and militarism and all these things. But I believe that eventually the market speaks, and I think that's what's waking people up, and people are getting worried. They should, but they should look into the philosophy of liberty and see how that could help us all.
Absolutely. I will have my closing statement now, Dr. Paul. I don't know how accurate this number is, but I keep seeing it out there that there's going to be $9 billion in rescissions, to cut. I mean, this is peanuts if it's true, $9 billion. Ukraine received hundreds of billions of dollars of ours. I mean, Israel just in the last few years, $20 billion. I mean, this is what the big hubbub was about getting Trump in there, $9 billion in rescissions. I mean, it's really disrespectful, if anything. It's, it was kind of tangible when Biden administration was in there that, the government doesn't really like us, the American people. That's the way they act. Well, the Republicans have all the levers of power, and they're acting the same. That they really don't like us. We work to send our money to Ukraine and Israel. That's what it feels like to be an American. That's what paying taxes is all about. You go to work, you earn a paycheck, a chunk comes out, and they go and send it overseas. That's what it's like. That's wrong. That's not what it should feel like to be an American. So again, and here's the funny part. The next time the election comes around, Republicans are going to campaign that we got to get those crazy big spending Democrats out of there. We need lower taxes. We need lower spending, no more deficits. That is how they're going to campaign. And yet, look at them in power now. They'll go way beyond the Democrats. It's a sad state of affairs, politics in the United States. We, the American people, pay the greatest penalty for it. You could feel it every day at the supermarket with the bills coming in. There's no relief. I don't care what President Trump says. Inflation is still bad, and we're not getting much help from Washington.
Very good. I talk about the extremes of anarchy and total authoritarianism. What is the philosophy that drives us today? There still is a philosophy. And the economic philosophy that is acceptable to left, right, middle, and anybody that likes power and wealth, and anybody that thinks they have a dream that they're going to make a more perfect world. The economic policy that has been accepted was taught in our universities almost unanimously, and it's called interventionism. That it's right and proper for the government to make decisions for the people because the people are stupid. They don't know what to do. They won't take care of themselves in their old age. They won't know when to take a vaccine shot or not take a vaccine shot. So it's something that the politicians are very deceptive. Not only do they lie and cheat and tell the people lies, but they lie to themselves and they come around to believing that they know what's right for the people. It's interventionism. So you can intervene and you have all varieties of it. And that's why you get at times right now you see signs that some of these goofy people that were helping Biden, and doing all these bad policies, they're coming around saying, oh yeah, we made a mistake there, but we've cleaned up our act and we're going to do something like that. Well, the one tool that they use, whether it's the authoritarians or a lot of the interventionists, is they do believe that truth is hard to find, and therefore it's the responsibility of us smart people in Congress to tell a lie now and then. But it ends up, most of what people hear are lies. And now a large number of people are recognizing that they've been told lies. I think it's marvelous on why. One time somebody laughed at me when I was being interviewed. I said, 84% of the people now don't believe that Kennedy was assassinated by one individual, and the CIA was involved. I said, 80-some% of the people believe that now. I know the first year after he was assassinated, I believe Oswald. Who's this Oswald guy? Boy, he's a powerful person. So, but the lying is part of their tool, and that is one of the things that we have to look out for. But the other side, what is your option going to be? If the authoritarians lie best and the interventionists lie when they feel like it, what else is left? And that is, if you believe in true liberty, you have to look at the source of law. And the source of law, historically, even hundreds of thousands, millions of years, whenever the civilization was being developed, there was a thing noticed, and it's been pursued since, and that's called natural law. Natural law that is not written by government, but everybody understands it from the very beginning. And that is, you can't lie, cheat, steal, and kill. That's not, well, that's pretty good. People aren't allowed to do that, are they? Oh, well, they are supposed to. They still do it, and sometimes they're punished. But they don't think the government should be treated the same way. This is what place I say equality. If they say we have to follow natural law and we can't lie, cheat, or steal, or kill, why do we allow our government to do it at our expense? inflate the currency, steal the money through the IRS, and go out and think. And Chris just mentioned how much money are we spending in these various wars. And I was initiated in all this Mickey Mouse type politicians in the 60s. During the Vietnam War, I happened to have been drafted into the military. That caught my attention a little bit. And all the people who have died in that, and it's all based on lies. That governments should follow the natural law too. And guess what? There was a time when a significant group of people believed in natural law. And that was the founders of this country. And that is why the good elements that came out of our Constitution could grasp the whole system of natural law. And natural law will lead us to the principles of peace and prosperity. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.